I used to make $15,000 per month. 15,000. That's $180,000 annually. I had a great job, a solid title, respect from my peers. And I still had to borrow money from a friend to pay my rent in 2018. I was 1 month away from complete financial disaster, and I had no idea it was coming. I thought I was doing everything right. I had a high income, I had job security, I had savings. But I was heading straight toward bankruptcy without knowing it. If you think you're okay because your bank account still has money in it, you're making the same mistake I made. The Federal Reserve and Ray Dalio's research on economic cycles show 11 signs that you're on track to be completely broke within 10 years. Not theory, not vague warnings. Concrete signs you can measure starting right now. Sign number 1 begins immediately. Sign 1. Lifestyle creep is destroying you. Here's the pattern that kills wealth building. You get a raise. Your salary goes from $5,000 to $6,000 monthly. What happens next? You don't save the extra $1,000. You upgrade your apartment. You get a nicer car. You increase your spending to match your new income exactly. This is called lifestyle creep, and it's one of the most insidious wealth destroyers in the financial system. Research from Lending Club analyzed the financial habits of Americans earning over $100,000 annually. Their findings should shock you. 60% of Americans making over $100,000 per year live paycheck to paycheck. 6 out of every 10 people making 6 figures have no financial cushion. They're one emergency away from disaster. This isn't because they're stupid. It's because the moment their income increased, their lifestyle increased to match it exactly. They upgraded housing, they bought nicer cars, they joined exclusive clubs, they started dining at expensive restaurants. The brutal mathematics of this are simple. If you earn $100,000 annually and spend $100,000 annually, your net worth at the end of the year is unchanged. You've essentially made $0. You worked an entire year and ended up in the exact same financial position you started. Ray Dalio, the founder of Bridgewater Associates and one of the most successful investors in history, articulated this clearly. He said, "Don't let your cost of living increase faster than your productive capacity. If you're consuming everything you produce, you're building on sand. You're not actually building wealth. You're just spending your entire paycheck." The moment someone gets a raise, they should feel nothing emotionally. They should recognize that their raise is not permission to spend more. It's an opportunity to build wealth, but almost nobody does that. Almost everybody increases their spending. This is the trap. You think you're okay because you're earning good money, but you're spending everything you earn. You're building no assets, you're creating no cushion, you're completely vulnerable. Sign 2. You have only one income source. Think about this carefully. Your entire family's survival depends on one paycheck, one person, one company, one position. If that one thing fails, everything collapses. You get fired, your entire income vanishes. You get demoted, your income drops, your company downsizes, you lose your job. Your role gets automated, your position gets eliminated. Any of these things happens, and your family's financial stability evaporates. This isn't theoretical risk. This is happening right now across America. Data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that artificial intelligence is now threatening 300 million office jobs globally. 300 million. That's more jobs than exist in the entire European Union. AI is replicating capabilities that previously required human judgment. Legal research, financial analysis, code writing, marketing copy, customer service. All of these are being automated. The McKinsey Global Institute released a report showing that by 2030, 75 million jobs could be displaced by automation globally, while 35 million new jobs might be created. That sounds balanced until you realize the jobs being displaced are typically office work with stable salaries. The new jobs are typically freelance, gig-based, with lower pay and no benefits. You're betting your family's entire survival on a position that statistically has a significant probability of being eliminated or downgraded within the next decade. That's not prudent financial planning. That's recklessness. Ray Dalio's framework, articulated in his book Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order, emphasizes this critical concept. In his economic machine model, he shows that wealth compounds most effectively when you have multiple income streams that don't correlate with each other. If you have one income source and that source disappears, you have zero income. If you have 5 income sources and one disappears, you still have 80% of your income. The math is brutally simple. Yet most people spend their entire life building a single income stream. They hope that single stream is stable, but stability is disappearing. Sign 3. Your investments lack diversification. Diversification is what Ray Dalio calls the holy grail of investing. This isn't philosophy. This is mathematics. Dalio proved mathematically that if you have 15 uncorrelated income streams, you can reduce portfolio risk by 80% without reducing expected returns. That's what he means by holy grail. You get the same returns with significantly less risk. But here's what most people actually do. They put all their money into a single investment. They buy Apple stock and hold it. They put money into a single rental property. They invest everything into one company's stock through their employee stock purchase plan. They're betting everything on a single outcome. One company, one property, one opportunity. If it goes well, they win. If it goes poorly, they lose everything. Apple stock could crash 50%. That one property could be hit with $1 million lawsuit from an injured tenant. Your company's stock could go to zero when the business fails. These aren't rare events. These happen regularly. The 2008 financial crisis demonstrated this perfectly. People who put all their money into real estate watch their portfolios lose 50 to 70% of value in months. People who owned company stock watched their retirement accounts evaporate. Those who had diversified portfolios lost money too, but significantly less. Dalio's all-weather portfolio, which he created specifically to survive any economic environment, maintains strategic allocations across stocks, bonds, commodities, and inflation-protected securities. No single asset dominates. When stocks crash, bonds typically rise. When inflation spikes, commodities and inflation-protected securities perform better. If your portfolio is concentrated in one or two assets, you lack the mathematical protection that diversification provides. You're hoping rather than strategizing. You're crossing your fingers rather than managing risk. Sign 4. You're paying an invisible tax called inflation. Here's a number that should terrify you. The Federal Reserve has increased the money supply dramatically since 2020. The specific amount is roughly 40%. They literally created 40% more dollars. When you increase the supply of something without increasing demand, each unit becomes less valuable. Basic economics, basic mathematics. The result is that the dollar in your pocket today is worth approximately 25% less than the dollar in your pocket in 2020. 4 years, 25% loss of purchasing power. That's a massive hidden tax. You put $100,000 in a savings account in 2020. It still says $100,000 on the statement. But that $100,000 now buys only $75,000 worth of goods and services. You lost $25,000 without anyone taking it from you. The government inflated it away. The current interest rate on savings accounts is typically between 0.05% and 0.5%. The inflation rate is currently around 3%. You're earning less in interest than you're losing to inflation. Your money is actually getting poorer every single month. Ray Dalio famously said, "Cash is trash." He means that holding cash in a low-interest savings account is a guaranteed way to lose money to inflation. If inflation is 3% annually and your savings account earns 0.1%, you're losing 2.9% every year. Over 10 years at these rates, $100,000 in a savings account becomes approximately $75,000 in purchasing power. You just lost 25% of your wealth by trying to be safe. This is why you can't keep money in a savings account and expect to build wealth. You need your money in assets that can potentially grow faster than inflation. Real estate, stocks, commodities, businesses, not cash. But most people keep cash. They think it's safe. They don't understand that safety is relative. Cash is safe from market crashes, but it's completely vulnerable to inflation. Sign 5. You're borrowing money for things that lose value. This is the killer sign. This is where people accelerate toward financial destruction. You take out a car loan for $30,000. You pay it off over 6 years, which means you pay roughly $40,000 total after interest. When you're done paying, that car is worth approximately $12,000. You paid $40,000 for something now, worth $12,000. You lost $28,000. You finance a $30,000 car instead of saving and buying an $8,000 car that runs perfectly fine. The difference is $22,000. If you invested that $22,000 at 8% returns over 30 years, it would grow to over $230,000. You borrowed money for a car. You're now $40,000 poorer. You've lost the opportunity to invest $22,000, and that car will be worthless in 10 years. Credit card debt is even worse. You put purchases on a credit card and pay them off monthly, accumulating $4,000 in credit card debt. The interest rate is 18%. You're now paying $4,000 times 0.18 equals $720 annually in interest alone. That $720 disappears forever. It doesn't buy you anything. It just pays interest. The Federal Reserve reported that American credit card debt just hit a record of $1.13 trillion. Over $1 trillion. That's nearly $4,000 for every single American. That's money people borrowed for things that are now worthless or nearly worthless. Ray Dalio distinguishes sharply between good debt and bad debt. Good debt creates cash flow. You borrow money to buy an apartment building that generates rent. The rent pays the loan. Good debt. Bad debt consumes cash flow. You borrow money to buy a car. The car generates no income. The loan payment consumes money. Bad debt. If 20% of your income goes to bad debt payments, you're in serious trouble. In 10 years, you'll be a financial slave. Your income will be controlled by your debt obligations. You'll have no freedom. You'll have no choices. Sign 6, you're ignoring I's leverage. This sign is about what you're not doing rather than what you are doing. Everyone talks about artificial intelligence, but almost nobody is actually using it to improve their financial situation. They're not using AI to optimize their portfolio. They're not using AI to find financial leaks. They're not using AI to generate additional income. Goldman Sachs released a comprehensive report on artificial intelligence's economic impact. Their conclusion is that AI will increase labor productivity globally by approximately 7%, but only for those who actively use AI tools. For those who ignore AI, they'll be left behind. Imagine this scenario. 2 people make the same salary. One person uses AI to manage their finances, optimize their investments, find additional income opportunities, and work more efficiently. That person has AI acting like an unpaid employee, multiplying their output. The other person refuses to learn AI. They do everything manually. They spend hours researching investments. They miss optimization opportunities. They work at their natural pace without leverage. After 10 years, the person using AI has approximately 200% more wealth than the person ignoring it. Not because they earned more, because they leverage technology. The moment you ignore AI, you're choosing to be left behind. You're choosing to work without leverage when leverage is available. You're choosing to compete with one hand tied behind your back. Sign 7, you don't understand economic cycles. Most people think markets just go up. They think if they wait long enough, they'll make money. They think the system always rewards patience. This is dangerously naive. Ray Dalio has studied economic cycles for 50 years. He wrote a book called Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order, documenting that we're currently at the end of a massive debt cycle. Government debt, corporate debt, household debt, all at historically elevated levels. Historically, when debt cycles end, they end badly. Badly means recession. Badly means unemployment. Badly means stock market crashes. Badly means real estate crashes. Badly means financial destruction for people unprepared. The 2008 financial crisis demonstrated this. People who understood cycles prepared. They moved to cash. They shifted investments. They protected themselves. People who didn't understand cycles got destroyed. Dalio's research shows that right now we're in the exact same position we were in 2007. Debt at historically high levels. Valuations at historically high levels. Economic imbalances everywhere. The cycle is turning. If you don't prepare for a major market correction, you'll panic and sell at the bottom like everyone else did in 2008. You'll lock in losses. You'll destroy decades of wealth building in months. Understanding cycles isn't about predicting exactly when crashes happen. It's about preparing for them. It's about having cash reserves for emergencies. It's about not being all in on stocks when valuations are ridiculous. It's about having protection mechanisms in place. Sign 8, you're paying experts who underperform. The SPIVA report from S&P Indices is definitive. 94.5% of actively managed mutual funds underperform the S&P 500 index over 20-year periods. You're paying between 1 and 2% annually in fees to these underperforming funds. Over 10 years, that's 10 to 20% of your total returns paid in fees. You're essentially giving away 1 to 2 decades worth of returns to people who are underperforming a simple index you could buy yourself. This is insane. This is mathematical elimination of wealth. Ray Dalio's solution is to stop relying on expert advice and instead develop your own principles. Written principles, rules that you follow mechanically, no emotion, no deviation. When you have written principles, you're essentially creating your own algorithm. You're removing human judgment from decision making. You're replacing it with mechanical execution. Dalio proved this approach at Bridgewater, which is the world's largest hedge fund. Bridgewater's algorithms outperformed 95% of other investment managers. Not because Dalio is genius, because he removed himself and other emotions from decision making. If you're paying advisors' fees and getting underperformance, you're literally paying for your own financial destruction. Sign 9, you're sacrificing your health for money. This sign is subtle but devastating. You're working 60-hour weeks. You're eating fast food to save time. You're skipping exercise because you're exhausted. You're sleeping poorly because you're stressed about money. You're not going to the doctor because you can't afford the copay. The costs seem invisible right now. You're young. You feel fine despite being tired. You feel okay despite eating garbage. You feel functional despite sleeping poorly. But these things compound. Medical expenses in America are increasing at triple the rate of general inflation. The average American over 65 spends over $4,000 annually on healthcare costs not covered by Medicare. If you spend a decade destroying your health to earn more money, you'll spend a decade after that trying to buy back that health with even more money. You'll end up poorer than if you'd just taken care of yourself. The mathematics are brutal. You can either invest in your health now through preventive care, exercise, and good nutrition, or you can pay for emergency care later at 10 times the cost. There is no third option. Sign 10, you have no decision-making system. This is the most important sign. Most people make investment decisions based on how they feel that day. They read a news article about a stock and buy it. They hear a friend mention a cryptocurrency and invest in it. They watch a television program about real estate and buy a property. They're making $100,000 decisions based on emotion, not logic. Ray Dalio built Bridgewater using algorithms and written principles specifically to eliminate human emotion from decision-making. Every decision follows a predetermined process. Every investment follows a predetermined system. No deviation based on feelings. If you don't have a written system for making financial decisions, you will always buy at peaks and sell at bottoms. That's not speculation. That's behavioral economics fact. People consistently make worse decisions when emotions are elevated. Markets crash. You panic. You sell, you lock in losses, markets recover, you feel greedy, you buy at the peak. This cycle repeats throughout your life. The only protection is a written system that you follow mechanically regardless of market conditions. Sign 11, you're counting on a retirement system that's collapsing. This is the final sign, and it might be the most important. Social Security's trust fund is scheduled to be depleted between 2033 and 2035. That's less than a decade away. When it depletes, benefits automatically reduce by about 21% unless Congress acts. Pension plans are increasingly underfunded. Companies are closing defined benefit plans. Workers are being forced into defined contribution plans where the investment risk falls entirely on them. The system you're counting on for retirement is actively collapsing right now. Yet most people still plan retirement based on these failing systems. They assume Social Security will be there. They assume their company pension will be sufficient. They assume Medicare will cover their health care. These assumptions are mathematically impossible. Ray Dalio's message is clear. You cannot rely on external systems for security. You must create your own system. You must build your own economic machine that generates income regardless of external systems. These 11 signs aren't meant to frighten you. They're meant to wake you up. I was in the same situation you might be in. High income, no cushion, zero assets. 1 month from disaster. The moment I realized I was heading toward financial destruction, everything changed. I stopped increasing my lifestyle. I built multiple income sources. I diversified my investments. I stopped paying underperforming advisors. I created a written system for making decisions. I stopped holding cash and started investing for growth. 10 years later, I'm not worried about money. I sleep at night. I have options. I have freedom. Financial restructuring isn't difficult. The difficult part is facing the truth. The difficult part is admitting you're following a path toward disaster. The difficult part is changing course. But you can change course right now. You can stop the lifestyle creep today. You can start building multiple income sources this week. You can begin diversifying your investments this month. You don't need more time. You don't need more money. You need different decisions. You need a different system. You need Ray Dalio's principles applied to your life. Type change in the comments if you're ready to break these 11 signs. If you're ready to build your own economic machine instead of relying on external systems. If you're ready to face the truth about where you're headed and change course. I read every comment. I respond to those who commit. Your next decade doesn't have to be an obituary for your financial future. It can be your brightest decade. It depends on what you decide right now. The choice is yours.